Your roadmap to the latest in auto. Welcome to Highway Herald, where we break down how a trade clash just shifted global gears. April 2025 didn't just bring tariffs, it triggered a 145% shockwave on Chinese imports that rocked ports, halted cargo, and froze supply lines from Shanghai to Guangdong. Major retailers like Amazon and Walmart canceled orders, while Boeing stock plummeted after China froze aircraft deliveries. But the auto industry? It's in the fast lane of this economic storm. Buckle up. We're diving into the mechanics behind this global shakeup. Tariffs hit top gear. The immediate fallout. The first blow landed hard. In a dramatic escalation, the U.S. government hiked tariffs on Chinese goods to an eye-popping 145%. Intended as retaliation against earlier Chinese tariff hikes, this move pushed both nations into a full-blown trade standoff. And the impact was immediate. Shanghai and Guangdong, two of China's busiest shipping arteries, reported a 10% drop in cargo volume in just 1 week. It wasn't just paperwork delays. Entire supply chains froze. Retailers like Five Below told vendors to stand down and even rerouted full containers back to origin. Amazon axed Chinese-sourced product orders en masse, a clear sign they were bracing for a longer battle. But the auto world? That's where the torque really twisted. Many components, electronic modules, sensors, wiring harnesses, rely on Chinese suppliers. When tariffs inflated costs and shipments ground to a halt, automakers were forced into emergency mode. Plants faced delays. Procurement teams scrambled for alternates. Margins shrank. Every delay or dollar counted. And many companies found themselves cornered, choosing between profit pain or production slowdowns. But tariffs weren't the only wrench thrown into the machinery. Supply gridlock was just warming up. Gridlock at the ports, when the supply chain stalls. Zoom out from the tariff shockwaves, and what emerges is a slow-rolling logistics nightmare. By mid-April, major Chinese ports like Shanghai and Guangdong had turned into industrial parking lots, containers stacked sky-high, ships stalled at anchor, and not a single vessel bound for U.S. shores in sight. Inside many of those containers, crucial auto components from microchips to wiring harnesses sitting idle as the clock ticks. But this isn't just a temporary shipping glitch, it's a full-blown supply chain meltdown. Exporters, unsure if their goods would get slapped with towering tariffs upon arrival, slammed the brakes. Warehouses across China filled up fast, overflowing with products destined for the U.S. market. On the other end, American assembly lines, especially in the auto industry, were left hanging, starved of essential parts for production. And the ripple effect is brutal. Container shortages are driving up freight costs, rerouting logistics, and stretching lead times. For automakers already operating on razor-thin margins, every delay and dollar adds pressure. The result? Rising vehicle costs that could land squarely on the showroom floor, and ultimately in the wallets of everyday drivers. Before we delve deeper, we'd appreciate it if you could subscribe to Highway Herald. Your support fuels our passion to create more content like this. Your go-to pit stop for automotive insight. Now let's take a look at how companies are scrambling to adapt, and how this crisis is reshaping global sourcing. Manufacturers reroute new paths, new problems. The corporate response? Slam the brakes, then spin the wheel for a U-turn. With China's supply chain dominance now a liability, major players like Amazon and Walmart are redrawing their sourcing strategies. Southeast Asia, especially Vietnam, India, and Indonesia, is rising fast as the go-to alternative. Meanwhile, inside boardrooms, one word keeps echoing: reshoring, the push to bring production closer to home or at least to friendlier trade allies. The auto industry isn't idling either. Manufacturers are aggressively scouting for new suppliers in Mexico and Southeast Asia, while some are investing in domestic production. But let's be real, this shift isn't an overnight fix. Retooling plants, renegotiating contracts, and rebuilding supplier networks takes time, money, and serious operational muscle. And while that realignment is underway, demand keeps ticking and pressure stays high. To make matters worse, the closure of the de minimis loophole eliminated duty-free imports under $800. E-commerce retailers and auto parts dealers relied on that for aftermarket parts and accessories. Now, shipping costs are surging, pricing models are scrambled, and the entire system is in urgent need of recalibration. But it's not just retail and car parts in the crosshairs. One of America's most iconic manufacturers has been hit mid-flight. Skies grounded, Boeing's blow, and auto industry echoes. While retail and auto manufacturing were the first to take a hit from the U.S. China trade war, the aviation sector is now flying straight into heavy turbulence. China's bold retaliatory move? A total freeze on Boeing aircraft orders and deliveries, a direct blow to one of America's most critical industrial giants. Boeing isn't just any company. It's the largest U.S. exporter, propping up 1.6 million jobs and anchoring supply chains that ripple across aerospace, defense, and tech. For years, China was one of its most valuable customers. But now, with 55 jets gathering dust in inventory and no access to Chinese buyers, Boeing's runway to recovery is looking bleak. Markets reacted swiftly. Boeing stock dropped 3% overnight, with investor anxiety signaling deeper fears about long-term fallout. And this is more than a bad quarter. Boeing's already weathered $50 billion in losses since 2018. But the storm doesn't end with airplanes. Aerospace supply chains overlap with automotive and tech, especially in rare earth elements. With China tightening its grip on these critical exports, the squeeze on electric vehicles, infotainment systems, and high-efficiency parts is just beginning. Which brings us to the final, game-changing pivot, a global rerouting that could reshape the automotive world as we know it. Global rerouting, a new era for supply chains. This trade war isn't just a flare-up, it's the ignition point for a much larger transformation. What started as a volley of tariffs between the U.S. and China is now morphing into a global reset of how, where, and why things are made. And the supply chains we once took for granted, they're being ripped up and redrawn. In Washington, lawmakers are advancing a strategy called strategic decoupling, a push to reduce U.S. dependence on Chinese manufacturing. With the CHIPS Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, and other incentives, the goal is clear. Bring production back home or shift it to trusted allies via friendshoring. It's an ambitious blueprint targeting semiconductors, EV batteries, and pharmaceuticals. But while the vision is bold, the execution is tough, especially for automakers. Reworking sourcing contracts, ensuring quality, and keeping costs manageable in a thin-margin industry is no small feat. China, meanwhile, isn't sitting idle. It's boosting domestic consumption, scaling tech independence, and forging new trade ties. The result? A looming split-world economy where supply chains regionalize, and for the auto industry, that's a tectonic shift that will shape the next generation of vehicles and markets. So what's the final verdict on this economic roller coaster? Final lap, trade wars, and the road ahead. The U.S. China trade clash has gone beyond tariffs. It's become a full-blown stress test for global industries. From grounded Boeing jets to stalled car production lines, the shockwaves are global. And in the auto world, the pressure is mounting fast. Disrupted supply chains, soaring shipping and material costs, and shrinking access to semiconductors and rare earths are forcing automakers to make tough decisions. Companies are racing to diversify suppliers, adapt operations, and stay competitive without pricing out consumers. Innovation is no longer a luxury, it's a lifeline. But what does this mean for you? Can the U.S. realistically rebuild a resilient supply chain without sending vehicle prices sky high? Is this a temporary disruption, or the beginning of a divided global trade system? And for drivers and enthusiasts, how will this reshape what we drive, how quickly we get it, and what it'll cost? We'd love to hear your take in the comments. Be sure to subscribe to Highway Herald for more high-octane updates. Thanks for riding with us. You can now check out any of the videos on the screen. There's more exciting and informative content waiting for you.